Amen. All right, I want our students and everybody to come up and sit here on the steps, and I'm gonna share to start out about our week from my perspective, and then we'll let the students share and our workers and everything. But we had a fantastic week. It was a real blessing. We had great time traveling up, great time traveling back. It's if you just drive without stopping, it's about a 7-hour drive, but it took us more like 8 or 9 or 10 hours because you stop for lunch and you have breaks and that type of thing. But one of the things that I always think about when I think about student camp, from a pastor's perspective, is I always want our kids exposed to very good preaching and teaching. To me, that's number one. And that's what I look at, because I think a lot of people don't get it when it comes to students and young people. People think that you got to dumb things down for students. I totally disagree. I think you can up your game. And if you go to the depths, man, of Scripture, they're there with you. And they're learning and thinking and being challenged. I really believe that our young people of today, and I'm not just talking about young people, students, I'm talking about young adults, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I think once they get around the good, solid teaching and preaching, it appeals to them. Because it's there's some depth to it. It's not just this surfacey stuff, but there's some meat to put your teeth into. And I would just say, from my perspective, the preaching and teaching of the week was excellent. They were solid at the Wilds. It's funny because I went to that camp when I was in 10th grade. I was going to a Christian school, and they took us up there for a week of camp. And there was people that are still at that camp, because one guy, Ken Collier, I said, "I remember you." And I said, "How long have you been at the Wilds?" He said, "I've been here since the beginning." He said, "I've been here for 57 years. And there's guys that have been on staff full-time at that camp for 30-plus years. Many of them have spent their whole lives at that camp. And they're full-time. And it's a beautiful facility. They have like 1,300 acres that they have up there in the mountains of North Carolina. Great facilities. I mean, the facilities were great. But the preaching and teaching was excellent. The music was excellent. Excellent music. And you say, well, I'm sure, let me tell you something. Every single adult sitting in this room would have said that music was awesome. Would they not? It was all hymns. It was all traditional. You talk about traditional. I mean, it was traditional. There wasn't any kind of rockiness to it at all. But you saw young people stand up. They had a choir of over 300 workers that were college age that formed a choir, and they sung several times for us. They did trios and duets. We sung. And I think our students even enjoyed the music, even though it was very traditional. They had an orchestra. I mean, when I first heard them up there and they were playing and everything, I noticed I could see like the bows of violins. I said, they've got an orchestra. And I mean, they had live musicians up there playing all of the music. And there was a lot of fun activities for the students, I would say. And that was pretty exciting, because I think all of the activities that they did, they had different teams, blue, green, and red. Red team rules. Where's the red team? They won the week on the games, but the games were just pretty phenomenal. It's pretty amazing to see 700 students out in a field doing activities. You could tell that the people at the camp really cared about the young people. And Brianna and I it was like you were at Niceville. Everybody was so nice. I mean, it was refreshing, though. I mean, I cannot tell you how many young people, students, 13, 14, 15-year-olds spoke to me, engaged with me, talked with me. How are you? How's your week going? I mean, they were campers. It was young people. It was so refreshing. It was encouraging to see 300-plus college-age students serve during the summer at the Wilds. They had 315 college-age students that are serving during the weeks of camp. And that just really encouraged me to see all those young people dedicate their time and effort to do that. And it also proves, and I think, it proves that young people can go 4 full days without a phone. Do y'all realize that? You don't like that? You went 4 full days without any kind of media.
It's funny when you ask somebody what had been going on at home and they had no clue.
Yeah, they were like in the dark. What was crazy was, I'm a watch guy. If I don't have a watch, man, I feel like I'm missing something. None of them knew what time it was because nobody wears a watch except Elijah. I had many students come up to me during the week and go, "Could you tell me what time it is?" "Yeah, man, it's this time, all of them," because they saw I had a watch. But they also really tried to minister to us as leaders. That was pretty refreshing too, because we really didn't. It was kind of a unique dynamic because we were not with the students at all during the week. None. We were not with them. They had a counselor that was assigned to them, and they handled everything. And we pretty much, we had a little motel room that we stayed in. It was very nice. And they had activities for us as adults. We went on a day excursion. They took us to see a couple of waterfalls and eat lunch and went out shopping one day. We had several sessions of teaching just to encourage us that were excellent. The one they did on counseling was very, very good, just to encourage us. And we had a mini golf tournament that the adults had, and we played that. And we got several hole-in-ones and got free coffee. They had a nice coffee shop. They had a nice ice cream shop and a snack shop and a nice bookstore, like a general store. Very nice. I'm talking about top of the line. And so I want to say this to anybody here and for future reference. Parents, your students would be well served to attend if we make a decision to go again to the wilds. Any youth camp that we go to, your child would be. And I want to encourage the parents because, look, I've been pastoring. I know this don't seem possible because of my youthful look, but I've been pastoring for 30 years. 30 years I've been a pastor. And I have seen a lot. You hear me? I have talked to a lot of people. I've seen a lot of family dynamics. I've seen a lot of marriage stuff and family dynamics. And here's what I want to encourage you, and I'm going to turn it over and let them everybody share what they want to share. And I just wrote this down because this is what I wanted coming from my heart as your pastor. Expose your students to all the church and biblical truth you can during the time that you have with your child or student. Make it a priority. Make it something that is at the top of the list. Okay? Don't make it, as I have seen many people do, they make it an option among many. Do not do that. Make church and church activities a priority. And the reason so many don't, you know why so many don't for their children? Because it's not a priority in their life as a parent. You're not living that, and therefore you don't expect your child to live that. Make church and church activities and church camp greater than sports, greater than band, greater than any other activity in your student's life. But I've seen it through the years where it's like, well, that's an option among the many options they have. Can I tell you, as a pastor who's been pastoring for 30 years, that's a mistake. Don't do that. The greatest thing in this life is knowing Jesus Christ and living for Him. The greatest thing you can do with your life is invest in the eternal. That's so different than the world's philosophy and what the world feeds us. The world feeds us, get education, be successful, make money, have stuff, enjoy life, go and do and dream the dream. You know, and I'm telling you, man, you can waste your life. You can spend your whole life on things that don't matter. And I'm telling you, make that a priority in your life. It kind of grieves me sometimes because people, it's so easy and so quick to, just say, nah, you don't have to go. You don't have to go to that event. You don't have to go to that. You're making a mistake. Expose your kids to everything you can. Have them in church. Have them in church. Have them at the activities. Encourage them to be a part of it. Because I'm telling you, man, it's like going to the wilds and going to these youth camps and stuff, man, they can have an impact for the rest of their lives. It can impact them for a long, long time. So I had a great week. I had a lot of fun. It was a great week, and I enjoyed working or being around Miss Jennifer and Miss Rebecca and Miss Brianna. We had a lot of fun, and we laughed, and I got to know Jennifer and Miss Rebecca even better. I know Rebecca pretty well because we work together every day, but I got to know her a little better and got to know Miss Jennifer, and we got to talk and share, and it's always fun when you go off with people like that because you get to know them at a deeper level. You become friends, and you get to know stuff about each other. So anyway, we had a great time. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to let Miss Brianna and them go from there, and y'all share.
I guess since I'm the leader, part of the leader, the other leader didn't get to go, I'll go next. But hold on, I'm going to spit my gum out so I ain't chewing in your ears. Hush. It was an excellent week. I know we were all a little nervous about going because we'd never been and we knew it was going to be kind of different. You should have seen the sad faces of them turning their phones over. It was real sad. Yeah, the boys, they were okay, I guess, but the girls, they really struggled with giving their phones up. But we had a good time. It was really different because when we got there, I went and registered us and got us signed in and checked in and all that good stuff. And the kids, they go down the hill to the activity center and they find out who their counselor's going to be for the week. And then they come back to the van and they get their luggage. And you're like, okay, bye. And then you're like, where are the kids? Like you see them at chapel, but then free time, you're like, hey, let's go do something with the kids. And you're like, well, where are they at? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, how are we going to find them? I don't know. I guess we just stand here till they walk by. Yeah, like an hour and a half later, and 5 flights of stairs. That's right, because there's stairs everywhere. But if you found the kids, you just had to wait on them and be like, oh, there they go. Like from the top of the hill, you'll see, I have a video that you'll see like where it looks down over this field and you can kind of see the stairs go down. We would often stand or sit up there and just look for them to go by. And you'll actually see some pictures of them down there. And that's how we would be like, oh, is that Jackson? I think he's the only one with the mullet like that shaking around, So you find Jackson, you knew the rest might be around. But they, some of the boys roomed together. We had 3 boys and 3 boys in the same cabin. And then the 3 girls were together, and then me and Jennifer, Miss Brianna, Brother David. But we did have a great week. They were very organized. No. Excuse me. David and Brianna were in a room, and me and Jennifer were in a room. We had a great week. Yeah, no, it was, yeah, we really got to know our pastor this week. Yeah, but they were super organized. I mean, we did not worry about our children being taken care of and where they were at and if they were watched because all of those college students that he talked about that are working there, they are all over the campus all day. Like I remember, I think it was Friday, we got a lightning alert and like this siren goes off. And when the siren goes off, that means that all of the outdoor activities are shutting down because there's lightning in the area. So everybody finds shelter there to get off of everything. And our kids had gone to the creek or whatever. I don't know what it was. They'd gone tubing down the creek, and we were like, who's getting them out? Like, are they getting out of it? Because who's down there? But then in a few minutes, you could see the counselors kind of scattered along the way, and they're making sure all these kids are getting out and getting off and going and being where they're supposed to be so they're not struck by lightning. So it was really comforting to know that they were very well taken care of. But it was really strange to not be everywhere they were all week, especially when the last 3 years we've done our own and we've done everything. and wouldn't have to really do a whole lot this week. I was like, man, I don't really know what to do with myself. But the food was a little less than great. It didn't do me so well a few nights. I missed some services because I was under the weather, and lost about 10 pounds before we come home. Yeah, she said Jackson enjoyed the food because as long as Jackson got to eat, he was happy. But the services were great. I did take notes in the services I was able to make it in, but I'm not going to talk about all those services. Matt Galvin, the speaker, he truly done an excellent job. I ran into him one day and just told him how thankful I was that he preached the word. And Brother David often says, there's no fluff, there's no gimmick, and that's truly what it was. He preached when he preached through Ephesians in the mornings, Ephesians 4, and talking about, how that God wants to change your life, and He can change your life. He wants to change your eternity. He wants to change your mindset, focus you on Jesus, and that you got to let go of that sin and quit holding on to that sin and living in that sin, because if you don't, then, and you continue to live in it and put off the chastening of God, that He will harden your heart towards that sin, and that you won't hear Him. You won't communicate with Him because you've just decided that this sin is more important than living for Christ. And I mean, he truly went to work on some people in our group, putting our students under conviction, because y'all, I know they're young kids. I mean, they're students and they're high school students, but they struggle with sin just like we do. And I mean, it was a blessing to know that even though it was hard on some of our students being away and things being different, I had to tell them, you just got to remember that God has us here for a reason, and this reason may have been very well to get you in line with Christ and to get you to move out of this sin that you've been living with. And if it was one student that He done that for, it would have been worth the whole week, because they truly do struggle with more than we really think about. My favorite service, though, I'm going to talk about just for a minute, was a service that he done on Tuesday morning with the adults, with the sponsors. He read out of Ezekiel chapter 22, and he spoke about how God was seeking someone in this city to pray. And I'm going to read real quick just a few verses. So Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 1 and 2 says, Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Now, thou son of man, wilt thou judge the bloody city? Yea, thou shalt shew her all her abominations. And then verse 12 says, let me move my tabs here so I can read them all. Says, In thee have they taken gifts to shed blood. Thou hast taken usury and increase, and thou hast greedily gained of thy neighbors by extortion, and hast forgotten me, saith the Lord. Verse 19 says, Therefore, thus saith the Lord, because ye are become dross, because therefore I will gather you into the city of Jerusalem. And then verse 30 says, And I sought for a man among them, that thou shalt make up a hedge and stand in the gap before the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. So I really and truly, I cannot tell you exactly where he was or who he was talking about in this, because I don't have it all in my notes, and I had to put together the slideshow, and I didn't get to kind of put all my thoughts together like I wanted to. But his point is our job as leaders and as Christians and fellow brothers and sisters in Christ is to pray for our students and intercede for our students. And in this text, in this city that he was in, he was looking for one person among them that would pray. And he found none. And he destroyed the city. So Matt was talking about, it is our duty as Christians, and it should be our privilege and our honor to stand in the gap and intercede for our children and our students, because that could be the deciding factor between life and death and destroying their lives. And one of the main things he said that really stood out to me, he said, you say, God is sovereign and He knows, and you can't change this and that or whatever. He said, but God in His sovereignty chooses to be moved by our intercession. So we are to be interceding for our kids. And you never know how your prayers may affect one decision of these children, meaning life or death, and changing the way that they live their lives for Christ, or whether they walk in a life that is destroyed and never seek God's face again. And that really spoke out to me, because we as leaders, we get busy, and all the things are important except what is truly important. And that is our prayer life and our being in the Word and our leading these children to the way of Christ. Because right now, they are living at home and they have us to lead them and guide them, but it's not going to be very many more years before they're out making their own decisions, and they suffer the consequences of their own actions without any help from us. And it truly changed the way that I see some of our students and former students and things that they struggle with, and how I should be more fervent in prayer and going to the Father and standing in the gap and interceding on their behalf. And I've been blessed this week, even though I didn't get to go to all the services. I didn't get to hear everything that they got to hear because of circumstances out of my control. But it really changed, I think. I know there were 3 lives that were truly changed. And I hope they talk about that a little bit tonight. God has really worked, and He has really touched my life just through the life of my daughter, and seeing how bringing her up in a Christian home truly makes a difference, and how they handle situations. And I just hope that each and every one of you take the time to lift these kids up in prayer every day, because we're living a life of victory. Those of us who've come through those challenges already, we are living the life that God's called us to live, even though we fail every day. They still have a lot to go through, a lot of life to live, and a lot of decisions that they're going to have to make. And it should be our privilege to pray for them daily, so that we can see them live the life that God's called them to live. Because we have a great group of students, a great group of young people, even those that aren't here tonight. They're wonderful children, but they deal with things far beyond what we ever dealt with in our lives, especially with social media at their fingertips and things that us adults have social media and we see things on social media. Trust me, we have no clue what they see on these devices. None. Because we're kind of sheltered from that. They get shown things you would never even fathom. So that, to me, that was just the biggest thing that spoke out to me, was that service. But anyways, I'm not going to keep going. I'm going to let somebody go next. You want to go next, or you want Elijah go next, or you want to go? You want Mom to go?
Okay, you be next. How about that? Okay. I really appreciated too that because we were sponsors, so they kind of said, that it was kind of neat, because they said, we want to minister to you too. Like, they were kind of ministering to us also, because they were like, you're involved with your church working, and we want to this week, take that burden and kind of fulfill that role, and so it kind of gave us some time to do different things, which was nice, because in the mornings we had a prayer time, and they had these prayer cards that had specific needs of students that were on the campus that week. And so we were able to, specifically pray for people. And something else I really appreciated were the counselors, because you would see them after the services sitting with students, talking to them one-on-one. I really appreciated Elijah's counselor, Isaac. He was so nice, and he was, talking to him one-on-one. He even gave things for him to read later. It was just, I really appreciated his role and his kindness. And like they said, it was like everywhere you went, people were so kind. I told David, I kept saying, David, do you think people are telling them to act this way? I really thought like they were like, did somebody tell them to be nice to us? Because it was so nice. I mean, they were very, very friendly and kind. And like they said, the facility was great. I really appreciated the bookstore, because when we went to the bookstore, David and I really recognized a lot of those authors. They were like from the Nuthetic biblical counseling thing that we went to. We're like, gosh, there's that book. There's those authors. So they really had a lot of sound, references and things for people to use. And I really appreciated all the preaching, all the speaking. And they really talked about Ephesians a lot, and the focus on Ephesians. It was real practical in Ephesians 4. And I had them memorizing through the week. And that was real. I really appreciated the speaker. And I also appreciated he did one on Ruth. And I never thought about this, but he kind of took it from the perspective of, Ruth's bitterness toward God and her anger toward God impacted Orpah. And sometimes when you think about Ruth, you just think about Ruth. You don't think about Orpah, but she went away, to her old God, and that the bitterness of Naomi had an impact on her anger toward God, had an impact on Orpah. And so he talked about that, the practicality of that too. And I appreciated the speakers. I really appreciated how organized they were. You could tell they'd been doing this and they knew how to do it well. And so I just appreciated all their service to our students. It was a blessing.
Well, the one thing that stood out to me was 2 Corinthians 5:14 and 15. For the love of Christ compels us, because we judge those that if one died for all, then all died. And he died for all, that those who live should live no longer for themselves, but for him who died for themselves, for them, and rose again. And there's a preacher that said this. He said, what do I accomplish? How do I accomplish my purpose? And it said, knowing God, believing in God, and valuing God. And yeah. And so, praise the Lord, I did not sleepwalk this week. So the funnest thing that I did this week was I went tubing with our sponsor in Jackson and Bryson, and I love the games and the scripture. And we went tubing again with the girls, Peanut and Jackson and Bryson. And I heard the sirens going off, so there was like nowhere to go. And then Leighton came to the rescue, and yeah, and got us out. And then we ran to a game called foosball, human foosball. And when we played, I got hit in the chest by the ball and the leg, and I had a fun time this week. And thank y'all for letting me go.
Hey, I will say real quick, those games, y'all, when we talk about the games on the field, I don't have any aerial views. There's a video we can show later, maybe that y'all can see, or I can share it on our Facebook page. You can go watch this kind of a synopsis of some, and it's on Jennifer's Facebook. I'll share it to the church Facebook page. But these games, when you watch them and you see the drone view of them playing these games, have y'all ever, I kind of compare it to this, have y'all seen the sheep herding videos where they have the dogs and they give commands and they move these sheep from the aerial view? That is exactly what it looks like. These students are all in sync playing these games. It is the wildest thing I have ever seen, but it is so organized. All these counselors have practiced and they know what's going on, and it's just, I'm like, how do they have them all in the right place doing the right thing at the right time? Because we struggle with 20.
We were herding cats.
Yes. It was the coolest thing to watch them play those games together.
Okay, I'm not a good speaker. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I had a really good time going. I was asked to go, or I got to go because Jackson and Bryson are not in youth yet, but they let them go, and we were very grateful for that. I know Deanna and I both were. And they had a great time getting to know all the youth and getting to participate in things, even though they're not there yet. They're old, they're teenagers almost. So they had a good time with that. But I I had a good time getting to know Brother David and Brianna and Rebecca, and they had really good sponsor programs for us. We, like Brother David said, the counseling session that we did about counseling teens, it was really great. It was good to know having a teen that's upcoming, kind of know how to handle them, and I've gotten to know all these kids well and how to help them. The music was wonderful. They played a lot of hymns, and I mean, I couldn't say enough great things about how good the music was. One of the most impressive thing is when you kind of looked around, there were no kids on phones. They were all sitting and talking and just having a good time, and it was almost like being back in our teenage years where, I mean, they were just not worried about it. They were just walking around, chit-chatting and playing and having the best time, and all the kids were just so nice. I mean, I don't think I heard one time, get off of that, don't do that, get out of here, kind of like we do most of the time with our kids. But there was none of that. The kids were all just great, and they were so respectful and so kind. And if you walked up to any child, not just the counselors, they were, well, maybe not our kids, but I'm just kidding. They were all so sweet and kind, and they asked you how your day was and if you liked the camp. And it was a lot of learning for us about how to navigate the camp and about our kids and stuff, but it was great. Let's see. Brianna mentioned that we did the sponsor prayer in the morning times, and that was very encouraging. And it was also very enlightening because we saw how many children were at that camp. Because while walking around, you thought, gosh, these kids have all got it together. But then we read those prayer cards, and there were a lot of burdened children there, a lot of burdened children that had things that we could not even imagine. And our little things were nothing compared to some of these kids' things that we were reading on these prayer cards. And I know Brianna and I prayed, and Rebecca, and it was just, it was a lot to pray for those kids and to know that, they could be experiencing a life-changing situation there, hopefully. The speaker, Matt, he was amazing. He was great for these kids. He really preached the word. And one of the things that I really enjoyed that he preached on was not wasting your life, for these kids not to waste their life on things. About, sitting gaming all day and wasting your life, and playing on phones all day, wasting your life, and sleeping until lunch, you're just wasting your life. And, that they needed to get out and work for the Lord and be in church and do things and honor their parents. And he really had a lot of good messages, and that was enjoyable for us too. I enjoyed our trip we got to go to the falls, and that was more than entertaining. The bus ride there, we really got in touch with Jesus on a prayer level because we were praying for our lives. Our driver had one hand on his phone and one hand on the wheel, and he was taking those curves. But we made it back, Brother David.
We got nauseated. I got car sick, and then she got car sick toward the end. So when we got home, I was about ready to throw up in the bushes, man. I was ready to slap the driver. I was about to go South Georgia redneck on him.
We told him we were from the flatlands. We didn't know about these curves, so
y'all are so nice. I'm not so nice.
I was really questioning what I was doing going when I got here, and all the boys loaded in the van with me. And so, we had quite, except for Leighton, he was the smart one and got in the car with the girls, and I don't blame him because it was strategic for sure. So I took all the boys, but it really was a blessing. And every one of those boys, they were so kind and so sweet all the way there. We almost threw Jackson out a couple of times, but we didn't. And but he, they were on the way there. They were different children than what we brought back. So it has been emotional to see the growth in a lot of these kids. And I've been burdened, and I've told everybody that I've seen. I cried in Sunday school this morning because I didn't know some of these children before I left, and now I know them on a different level. And my heart is burdened for them, and I love them. And I just pray that this week did a work in their lives, and that they'll grow to be good Christians, and they'll have fruit in their life. And so thank you all for letting me go and be with these kids. And I hope that they got as much out of it as I did. Your turn.
Wasn't on. Jackson went into the creek and he like caught a fish with his bare hands, and then he put it in like a Sprite bottle, and like one of them died, and like okay, that's it.
So Thursday night, you will all love this, and if you know Jackson, you know. So we're Thursday night. We go down to the service for chapel, and here comes Jackson, and he's got an empty Dr. Pepper bottle with a fish in it, a live fish. And so we are like, "What are you doing?" And he was so excited about this fish, and all he talked about the whole time was fishing, and he didn't know he could take fishing poles, so he was upset about it. So when he was supposed to be bathing, he was in the creek catching a fish to take to tic-tac-toe game, and they had to bring random items to their tic-tac-toe, and whoever they would call out the item, and if you had the item you had to run up and that would get you a spot. Unfortunately, they did not call live fish, but he put his best effort forward. So you'll see his picture on the video with the fish, and no fishes were harmed. He was released. So
Okay. First off, I want to say is thank y'all for sending me to youth camp. I very much enjoyed it. What I learned from out of the lessons is that anger isn't the best way to solve your problems, because that's what I thought for a very long time, because like my anger was like very bad. But what spoke to me was when he was saying that God was poking you, and that first night he was actually poking me and saying, "Hey, go talk to your counselor." So that night I went and talked to my counselor, and I felt relieved, like very much relieved. Like the weight on my shoulders was just not there anymore. So I very much enjoyed that. But what I did enjoy up there is like the shoals and the falls. That was like very beautiful out there, very much. And I enjoyed the games too. I say my favorite game was probably gonna have to be like Tag-A-Lot. That was like one of the best games I enjoyed. I hurt myself in the process, but I'll be okay. Um, but yeah, I got to meet new people. The cabin we was in, we had these guys named Wyatt, Hudson, Mark, and Evan. Evan is our counselor, by the way. But I very much enjoyed going to youth camp. And that's all I gotta say.
I don't want to talk. I gotta think. I know. It's not really what I was expecting, especially with the whole phone thing being gone. I mean, definitely didn't like that at first, but now I kind of don't even want it, to be honest. What it really helped me throughout was probably the cabin members that we had, the boys side with the Wyatt, Mark, Hudson, and all them, especially Evan. He was my favorite art counselor. He helped me through a lot that week. The thing that hit me hard, I don't know if y'all understand it, but in my way I'll understand it, is how are you going to pray for this person but still have this sin? You pretty much love the sin more than the person you're praying for. And like they don't deserve it, to be honest. You don't deserve to pray for them. That's all I got to say.
Okay. When I first got there, I was ready to go home. I did not want to be there at all. I really didn't. But when I got there, I got to my cabin, had an attitude with everybody. I did not want to talk to anybody. They just kept looking at me. I'm looking back at them. What? But then the first service that we went to, it called me out very much bad. Every single service we went to called me out. Drama, attitude, gossiping, all of it. And then about the phone thing, I've been on the phone for 5 years. I'll be all right without it. Everybody else is stressing out. I'm just looking around. Oh, okay, they'll be all right. I mean, I've been on the phone 5 years. But that's probably the hardest thing that hit me was about the gossiping and the attitude, all of it. But and then they said stand up and go out there with a counselor if they wanted to pray for you. The first night I didn't do it. I was scared to get up in front of anybody. And then I felt so weird. It just everything was so cold and just weird. I didn't like it. But the but the second night, I actually got up and went, and I felt so much better that I went. And I'm just happy I told somebody about all the sin I was holding on to, and just telling them about it and letting them pray for me about it. And that's probably what was the best thing. But the worst thing was the stairs. It was so many stairs. I hardly even made it halfway. But the boba, it was worth it. All right.
First of all, thank y'all for letting me be able to go to youth camp. And like they all said, the hardest thing was probably the stairs because I was not used to that. But something that God made me realize is that I need to act better around my friends, and because I'm not really like my auntie always says, I'm always a follower and not a leader. But I want to start being a leader and not a follower. And one of my favorite things was probably tipping in the creek with Elijah, our counselor, and Jackson. And we also, me and Jackson, whenever all the showers were filled up, we would always run to the creek because it was fun. And we also had like a little bubble bath thing and some slides.
Okay, first of all, thank y'all for letting me come to camp. Overall, my favorite thing was the creek. I bathed and tubed in the creek. Okay. Something that really spoke to me is good deeds don't give you eternal life. Something I want to change in my life is to be nicer to my brother and sister. Thank you for letting me come again.
By the way, if y'all want to ride in a car with Jackson, don't do it.
Takers. I had to threaten to put him in the truck with Brother David a couple of times. So.
Yo, this week has been fun, but it's been a spiritual and an emotional battle. The first few days, I wanted to go home. I was tired and I didn't understand why. But one of the things I learned this week was we don't always know the why, but there's always a reason. I also learned that if you take Mackenzie and Annie on a hike, you will fall and they will take you with you. Or with them. Mackenzie pushed me. And it hurt. I forgot where I'm at. Oh, I got flip pages. Okay. So I gotta find where I'm at first. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so one of the notes I have is a new life demands a new lifestyle. You have to put off the old man, and you have to put on the new man. The
grave clothes of sin are gone, and the grace clothes of Jesus' righteousness are on. You are being renewed. And I don't have my Bible right now, but I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure what they got that from was Romans 6:6. And I'm going to leave it at that. My favorite thing I did was the creek, and then hearing the siren, and then had to get out really, really, really fast. And then, yeah, we had to get out from the bushes, and there was a building, small little building, and it had ropes hanging from the ceiling. We didn't know what we were going into, but we realized on the side it said human foosball. So we just sat there playing human foosball until they let us out, because we couldn't leave. So we were just stuck there playing human foosball with a bunch of people we didn't know.
My bad. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me go and giving us the opportunity to go to camp. It was quite an experience for me. This was the first church camp or youth camp that I've been to, and the speaker was amazing. Every message hit different in many ways. I just loved the activities. They were really different, but they were fun. I've never heard of the games that they did, but it was interesting. And don't pick a bed but under Annie or above Annie. Well, she got the loudest bed, and she moved so much. And then, hold on. And then there was this girl there, and she didn't know how to say Charlize's name. So they called her Char Char. But, my favorite part was getting to have family time with the church and, going down the, lazy river thingy that was not so lazy. Kept on getting stuck on rocks. But yeah. So I wrote something down, but I don't know if I'm going to read it because thinking in my head of everything and my head's going crazy. But, sorry, Elijah, because that was me that hit you in the gut. But I also did get a shoe in the face, but so, yeah. But we are back, y'all. I know y'all missed us, our beautiful faces, but we won't be leaving anytime soon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to go to camp. As I usually say, I didn't want to go, but I was very excited. I was excited because of Allie. I wasn't going to go because of the no phone, but then I realized I didn't really need my phone. And sadly, Allie didn't get to come with us because of certain reasons, and she missed out on a lot. But the activities, like she said, they were very strange and very different, but I would love to play them again, except for Tag-A-Lot. I didn't like that one. I think my favorite one was probably Scramble or whatever it was called, is where you had to spell, they gave you a sentence and you had to spell the word. We lost that, but it's okay, because our team didn't know how to spell. And just because the green team lost doesn't mean anything, because we had to memorize verses. Every morning we had an hour to memorize verses. We had about 10, I think, 10 or 11. And whoever got 600 points for it. And green team beat everybody in it. and I just thought that was important to say. And also, we also kept our cabins the cleanest, so it's okay. And I also did like the fact about not having the phones, because our phones are a big distraction. And whenever Brother Dave was talking about the hymns, and I was expecting, like, how every other youth camp is, you hear these energetic songs, but just listening to hymns and singing hymns is a spiritual awakening. I love hymns. I love singing hymns. Hang on, guys, I'm trying to find my spot. Another thing that I was happy about was, like I said, the worship. The speaker, I feel like he knew everybody, what was going on in their life, but he didn't. But God got him prepared to come and speak to us. And he's done it for years, and it's crazy. He just knew what he was doing. And I just loved hearing him. And I can't find the page, but I took notes, and there was one day that he spoke on. He was just speaking. He was talking about how that you can have anger, but don't show your actions of anger, and how to have godly response. And I would love to remember the rest, but I can't right now because my mind is focusing on something else. But like I said, the games were beautiful. Not beautiful, amazing. And I think my favorite part, though, was waking up to a creek. Our cabins were out in the woods, and we always woke up to a creek. And it was beautiful. And the mountains, I love the mountains. Never been, but went up there. It was beautiful. And the hike, that was also great, but they knew I was going to fall. I mean, my name is Annie for a reason. And let me just explain it, actually. We were going down. We had hiked up the hill, and then we were going down, and it'd been raining all week, and there was clay. I said, oh, no. I was like, y'all be prepared. And next thing you know, I see the girl going around. I was like, I got this. I can make it. I put my foot down. I go, and next thing I know, I'm sliding. I grab Mackenzie. Mackenzie grabs Charlie. So we're all going down together, and it happened like that all the way down. But once we got there, it was worth it. But then going back was awful. We ran most of the way, or tried to. Charlie's kind of gave up. But there was a lot of things we could do on our free time, which was ziplining, going to the lake, the lazy river, natural lazy river, and the giant swing. Sadly, I didn't get to really do much of that. The only thing I did get to do was the lazy river with the boys. And nobody wanted to do the giant swing except for Jackson, but we couldn't do it together, sadly. But we would have had a great time. Miss Jennifer would have loved that. This entire week was very interesting, and it was a struggle for me. I think by the end of the week, I wish I had never win, and I was mad. I didn't realize so much was going to change in my life. Every message that was spoken hit me hard, but the one that knocked me down was Friday morning. And I already told y'all some about that. And I ask that y'all pray for me and the things that I'm struggling with. But going to the camp was great, and things happen for reasons. God would never put us through something we couldn't go through. And it was a struggle trying to realize that, but someone helped me realize that, and I loved it at the end, and would love to come back next year if we get the chance. And
Okay, First of all, my pet fish in the bottle, his name was John. And I caught a fish too with a fishing rod. It was a trout. Be quiet. No one else knows that.
By the way, when we first got there, they got AC and we didn't. I was mad about that.
That is true. The boys didn't have air condition at all.